So let's talk about Thane Eugene Cesar. So Thane Eugene Cesar was the police officer that was standing behind, or the security guard officer that was standing behind Bobby Kennedy when Bobby Kennedy was killed. Now, that was a picture of him. Here's a recording of him right here.
Thane Eugene Cesar, who was, unlike Sirhan, standing in exactly the position and location he had to be to fire the shots that hit Robert Kennedy. Thane Eugene Cesar was standing behind Robert Kennedy and in contact with him by his own admission when the shooting began. He dropped to the floor and reached for his weapon. One witness saw him fire.
Now, would you tell me what you did when Mr. Kennedy walked close to you and what you did up to the time of the shooting? As far as the other security officers, they were behind me trying to keep most of the people from falling. And I went ahead of him and got alongside of Senator Kennedy and grabbed hold of his right arm and sort of pushed our way through the crowd. As we got to the icebox area and a row of steam cabinets, Senator Kennedy stopped and sort of turned and broke away from me to shake hands with a couple of gentlemen at the edge of the steam table. I think they were busboys. All right. At this time, I was up against the icebox, approximately 12, 14 inches, 2 feet ahead of Senator Kennedy. I had my eyes on the senator when he moved up forward a little more to shake hands with him. I happened to turn around and look up, and just as I looked up, I seen a gun, and when I seen it, it went off. At this time, the maitre d' in front of me to my right either ducked or jumped or something, but he knocked me down against the icebox. I scrambled to my feet, pulled my gun, and meantime, several of the camera crews and whoever was standing around there had grabbed the man that had done the shooting.
Cesar's clip-on tie lay on the floor beside Robert Kennedy after the shooting. Here we see Cesar without his tie nearly an hour later.
I had a Sam Brown on with a 38 revolver with a 4-inch barrel.
Cesar's gun was never checked on the night of the shooting. He told police he had sold his .22 3 months before the assassination.
A receipt proves that it was sold after the assassination. The person who made out this receipt confirmed Cesar told him at the time of the sale, "Be careful of this weapon, it was involved in a police shooting." He was the obvious first suspect. The police brushed him off and never investigated him further.
At the time of the shooting, 2 guns were drawn, Sirhan's and Cesar's. Cesar's gun was never tested, nor even examined. We do not know scientifically whether or not it was fired. We have Cesar's word that it was a .38 and that it was not fired. But we also have Don Schulman's word that a security guard fired his gun in the pantry. In the courtroom, evidence was introduced about 2 guns, Sirhan's and the other .22 Ivor Johnson, recorded in Los Angeles Police Department Officer Wooper's handwriting as having fired the test bullets. Incredibly, this second gun was destroyed by the Los Angeles Police Department.
So that's testimony of Eugene Cesar, that he said that, he was standing there, he had a .38, he got knocked down. Now here's the infamous picture with the busboy, right? So Robert Kennedy is on the ground dying, and then you got the famous busboy that's right there. Right here is a tie. This tie is Thane Eugene Cesar's. And what Bobby Jr. thinks is that Bobby Sr. knew that the shots came from behind him, and so he turned around and he grabbed the guy's tie. That's the guy who did it. So that's who Bobby Jr. thinks did it. He thinks it was Thane Eugene Cesar. And so here's more about his testimony. And he's going to say
of the senator being shot 3 times and of the guard firing.
He's going to say something differently. He's going to testify. He's going to, give an interview or something later on in here, saying that he didn't like the Kennedys because they were giving the country to the communists and to the black folks. And so he didn't like the Kennedys.
Did Cesar own a .22 caliber gun the night of the assassination?
Oh, a month after that, I had a little .22, 18R22, just like the one that was used on Bobby.
Let's hear this again in full context now.
When I got to the police station, I noticed I lost my tie. And I figured, well, I figured when I got knocked down is when it got knocked off. Well, so when they took me back to the hotel, I went into the kitchen area, and the sheriff was still there. There was 3 or 4 men there. They were looking for bullets, and because there was I forget how many shots were fired. They asked me how many shots were fired, and I said, well, it sounded like 5, but a month after that, I had a little 22, H&R 22, just like the one that was used on Bobby, and I took it out.
So there's some lies there. He actually had the gun beforehand, and there's lies there. So he's not telling the truth about what gun he had when he had the gun. And then he had also said something right before then, which I forgot what he said. Damn it.
Out in the woods, had 3 or 4 guys with me, and I fired it. It's a 9-shot, and I fired it.
He said that he had heard 5 shots, but the audio expert said that there's 13 shots out of an 8 revolver gun, an 8-gun revolver gun. How can you shoot 13 bullets from an 8-bullet revolver? That means there's 5 extra bullets. Who fired the 5 extra bullets?
Fast as I could, and I asked each one of them, I said, how many times did I fire that gun? And not a one of them said over 5 times. So it's impossible to count how many times you fire a revolver if you pull the trigger fast enough, because you can make 2 shots sound like 1.
What is an HR-22?
What is it? It's I can't remember what H&R stands for, but it's exactly the same kind of 22 like he had, same length barrels, same size. The only difference is that his was I think an 8-shot and mine's a 9. That's the only difference between the 2.
Between what?
Between the 22 strand used and the one I had.
And you still have your 22?
No, I don't have the 22 anymore.
You sold it?
I sold it.
When did you sell it?
About a year ago. A friend of mine moving out in the country wanted a little handgun, and I didn't need it, so I sold it to him.
Did you buy a gun from Thane Eugene Cesar?
Yeah.
When was that, Mr. Yoder?
It was on September the 6th, 1968. When I sent you the receipt that he gave me. I sent you a photostat copy. I have that receipt now. It says on the day of September the 6th, 1968, I received $15 from Jim Yoder. He's got it spelled Yoder, Y-O-L-D-E-R. The item involved is a H&R 22 pistol 9-shot serial number. I think that's a Y13332. And then he signed it. You got the photostat there.
Yes, I sure do.
Mm-hmm.
This bill of sale is authentic. Thane Eugene Cesar's signature matches the one on the release. The date on the bill of sale is September the 6th, 1968. 3 months to the day after Senator Robert Kennedy died.
Less than 3 months after Houghton's unsuccessful search for a right-winger in the pantry, security guard Thane Eugene Cesar was telling reporter Ted Chirac,
I definitely wouldn't have voted for Bobby Kennedy because he had the same ideas as John did, and I think John sold the country down the road. He gave it to the commies, he gave it to whoever he wanted to, he literally gave it to the minority.
Again, there are variances between Cesar's answers to the DA and to Chirac.
I'm not a Democrat.
Oh. Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with that. I was going down there just for the money.
Now, who did you vote for in November?
Wallace.
Pardon me?
George Wallace.
Have you worked actively into the third party?
I did over in Simi when I lived in Simi Valley. I worked for George Wallace Party.
Prior to June the 5th?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do exactly?
Oh, I pass handbills and get donations. That's not too much. I didn't have too much time to put into it, but I did put a little bit of time in it.
The long series of coincidences in which armed guard Thane Eugene Cesar was involved was never made public, much less explained. At his request, Cesar was never asked to take the witness stand.
I told him if it's all possible, I just not be involved.
So he didn't want to be involved in the investigation. You know, if it's at all possible, I'd just rather not be involved in the investigation of the killing of Bobby Kennedy. So you heard a bunch of things there. Thane Eugene Cesar, he was standing behind Bobby Kennedy. Thane Eugene Cesar didn't like the Kennedys because he thought that his brother sold the country to the communists and to the black folks, and therefore he didn't like Bobby for the same reason. You had 13 shots in the kitchen of the what was it called? Wherever he was shot at, that building, that hotel, the Ambassador Hotel. And so you had 13 shots, and there's, 8 shots out of the gun of Sirhan. So there's 5 extra shots. The bullets that went through Bobby Kennedy came from behind him. There was even a carbon print, so it was close enough, like it was shot point blank range. And the kill shot was the one that was shot behind his right ear. So you had 3 or 4 shots shot from behind Kennedy. And they said that it was an upward trajectory, like somebody had got on their knees and had shot upwards, or maybe he shot from the hip. Maybe he shot from the hip, maybe he got on his knees and shot. But he was saying that he got wrestled to the ground and that he pulled his gun, but he didn't say that he fired his gun. And then he had a 22 that was similar to the same gun, but then he had sold it. And then this guy also is going to claim that he was a CIA agent. He's also going to claim that he had top clearance, top security clearance, top secret clearance, and then he had worked for Lockheed. So there's just a lot of weird-ass coincidences there. Why would you hire a guy? They said he was a plumber, too, so he was just a plumber. Why is he a security guard? Why is he in that building? Why is he doing any of these things? It's kind of crazy that he's even given any of these interviews, any of these interviews. They also didn't take the gun. They didn't analyze the gun. They didn't see if it was actually a 38 or a 22 that he had on him. They didn't see if the gun had been fired or not. There was one report, I think it was in France, and so apparently they said that it looked like a guy had shot from the hip, like in a John Wayne movie or something, like a cowboy. So Sirhan couldn't have shot and killed Kennedy because he was standing in front of him. Thane Eugene Cesar was standing behind him. So he just seems like the obvious culprit. He seems like the obvious culprit. So it's one thing to say the official narrative is wrong, but then, what is the right narrative? Well, you don't know. The truth is immovable. The truth is eternal. It's immutable, immovable. The truth is forever. So whatever the truth is, that's the damn truth. And so it's incredible that we're going to release the RFK, JFK, and MLK files too. It's incredible that we're doing this. So I would love to find out what is the truth. Is Bobby Jr., close to the truth? And will any of the documents released, will it actually point closer to the truth or not? So you just heard 2 of the testimonies. I just want to get the audio of his recording. You heard what he thought about the Kennedys. You heard what he had done at the time that he was assassinated. And then also the questions about the gun, when he had the 22, when he didn't have the 22. He had a 38, he said, and some other facts. So there you go, Thane Eugene Cesar.